All right, welcome to the Sharp Mind Show, episode 47. I'm Nate, the Fit Future MD, your host. Be sure to shop at intercell.com and pick you up a cool, inspirational t shirt today. All right, so got to start with the upset of the night. We got Bengals beating the Steelers 33-31. But the big story is that Aaron Rodgers can still throw it 69 and a half yards in the air, no problem, right? I don't know how old he is. He's got to be like 100. I think he's 41, but um, let's see actually how old he is. But at 41 years old, yeah, 41 years old. At 41 years old, he can still throw it 70 yards in the air. So the legend of Aaron Rodgers continues. But the reason the Steelers lost this game was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers threw two picks. Joe Flacco did not throw any picks, right? Let's say Jalen Warren, 16 carries, 127 yards. He did his part on the ground for the Steelers. Um, you know, uh, let's say Joe Flacco threw for three touchdowns, 342 yards. Chase Brown on Cincinnati's side, he did his part. He got 108 yards rushing. Um, and obviously the defense stopped the Hail Mary there, right? So what do you guys think about the Unk Bowl here? Unk Bowl? Because you got two of the oldest quarterbacks in the league going at it here. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are now 4-2. Cincinnati Bengals are 3-4. Um, so the Cincinnati Bengals going to look a lot better here with Joe Flacco. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right, the other game that was on Thursday night was my people, ECU, go Pirates. They played Tulsa last night, and it was basically a high scoring affair, 41-27. So if you had the over on that one, you would have been correct. Um, but basically, we ECU dominated on the ground here. Had 53 carries for 268 yards on the ground and three scores. So basically, Tulsa just could not stop ECU on the ground. I say early they were really killing with Engelman, maybe might have been Montgomery. I don't know, but I thought it was Engelman. But anyway, like I say, 53 carries, 268 yards between Montgomery, Gunn, and Engelman. I think Hauser threw in a few in there, but pretty much that was it. Anthony Smith, big game, four receptions, 158 yards, two touchdowns. So he got Caden Hauser's two touchdowns. Hauser throws for 300 yards even. And the defense did just enough. Just enough. I don't think there was any turnovers in this game, which is wild. So, um, so ECU beats Tulsa 41-27. Let me know what you think about the game. ECU is now 4-3. Tulsa's 2-5 and 0-4 in the American. Um, so definitely not a big defining win here for ECU with Tulsa being 0-4 in the American. But let's say Baylor Hayes still played a good game. 251 yards. Um, two touchdowns. He looks like they just needed, they put up 27 points, so they just needed a little help from their defense, and ECU's offense was just better than their defense, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so I've obviously been getting a lot of ideas here from TikTok lately, and so lady comes up there and she's like, she has husband that's a police officer, and he basically has a second job as a police officer because police officers don't get paid that much. And so basically, she has a husband, but the husband's always at work, right? The husband's basically working, you know, 6 a.m. or leaving the house 6 a.m. and then working till midnight, you know, several nights a week. And so she was basically trying to figure out how she can get her husband to pay more attention to her, right? And so the question becomes, well, what do you do if your husband's a workaholic, right? So the number one duty as a husband is to provide, right? So if you have a profession that doesn't pay you well, the only way to provide is to work more, right? So, that makes, especially a lot of blue collar men, a lot of, you know, professions that are needed but don't pay well, uh, you know, men basically have second jobs, basically become what you call a workaholic. Now, workaholic comes with side effects, right? Because if you're working all the time, you're not going to be as energy enthusiastic. You're not going to be accepting of stuff that gets on your nerves, that kind of thing. And it goes vice versa if your wife is a workaholic as well. Same thing, right? Um, so number one, you have to, I would sit down with each other, and you have to come from a place of we're in this together type situation. What are our goals together, right? Because if you're working just to work, that's stupid. If you're working because there's a goal in mind and you hit the goal and then you don't work anymore, then that's fine. You know, and if a lot of times it's really just working just to make ends meet. And if that's the case, then this just going to be that way. And it's going to be, can you accept it this way or can you not accept it this way? Right. So, you know, obviously, if you got somebody working 84 to 100 hours a week, you're going to have to keep, like, they're going to be tired. Right. So if you're thinking like you're going to have like great, amazing sex and, uh, this intimate type relationship is not going to happen when somebody's working 100 hours a week. It's just not, right? Like, you need to figure out, basically I would tell people to try to have morning sex, right? Like as soon as you wake up, pee, use the bathroom, have sex. Like, because if you don't, you know, basically that's going to be the time where you have the most energy, right? Is when you first wake up or right after you had your coffee, whatever you need to do. But um, basically, especially males wake up horny, right? So you know, go ahead and get that in if you can. And the second thing is that if you're having problems being intimate because somebody's working 100 hours a week, keep trying every day, right? Just try every day. You know, um, it doesn't matter how many times, like, you have to, oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm tired, I'm tired. Well, you try 365 days a year, eventually tired is not the excuse. You can't be the excuse. You're okay. You've been tired for 365 days. Well, it's time to let's get it done. Like, come here, Big Daddy, right? So, you know, um, but basically, if you're married, you're in it for the long haul. Your husband's having to work, or wife's having to work to make ends meet. You know, you don't give up just because you're going through hard times, right? Like, yes, uh, if you're the one stuck at home and the husband is working all the time, it's definitely going to be lonely, right? You might have a time of loneliness. And, you know, also, if the person was already doing this when you met them, they were already a workaholic, expecting them not to be a workaholic is kind of dumb too. But that's beside the point. It's really about how can we make this work. Like there has to be some sort of middle ground, right? So that means he takes a second job and works 3 days extra a week, and that's it. And the other 4 days he's off, that type of thing. So a lot of guys I know don't work on Sundays, right? So they won't take any shifts on Sunday, you know, stuff like that, right? Where you actually get a day of rest, stuff like that, right? So keep that in mind. Let me know what you would do if your husband or wife was a workaholic. How would you go about getting their attention? How would you go about making sure you stay connected as a husband and wife, right? This episode is brought to you by London and the Googly Goo, which is my wife's children's book. If you have nieces, nephews, or children of your own, be sure to check out London and the Googly Goo, available on Amazon. All right, so lastly, last thing of the day, we got the quote of the day. It says, "The storm that tried to drown you was the same one that taught you how to breathe underwater." The storm that tried to drown you is the same one that taught you how to breathe underwater, right? I would go ahead and make this quote, taught you how to build a submarine or, whatever. But basically this is basically saying that when life gives you a challenge, the challenge teaches you how to create solutions, right? So if something is challenging you in your life, because you have things that you do every day, and most of the world's billionaires are basically because they've solved an everyday problem and created it for the masses, right? So, for example, somebody invented how hat racks. Somebody invented how hat racks. Somebody invented hat racks, and sold those to the masses, right? And they're probably a billionaire because they came up with a hat rack because, men go bald and need to start wearing hats so that the sun doesn't burn the top of their head, and they need a place to put their hats, right? Stuff like that. But just as an example, but, if you're going through a storm right now, it's when you're in the storm, the only thing you should be thinking about is how do I get out of the storm, right? So many people will go into a storm and just stop in the middle and accept it as their status quo. Like this is just how it is. Like I'm just in this storm forever. Like no, let's get you out of the storm, right? Like if whatever the storm is, right? So some people right now, especially right now, inflation is killing people. We can't stay in the inflation, right? We got to do something different. So, like I say, I've talked about on this channel how we shop for cheaper things, right? So, if you got a cell phone bill that's $200, like, hey, we need to find one that's $90, right? If you have insurance that's $1,000 a month or $1,000 a quarter or whatever, $1,000 every 6 months, then we need to shop around and make it $300 every 6 months, right? $300 or $400 every 6 months, that kind of thing, right? So don't just stay stuck in the storm, right? Don't accept status quo, right? Um, Obviously, if you're paying too much for subscriptions and you know subscription services, you got to get rid of those, right? And if all those companies go bankrupt because they're on subscription service, then so be it, right? Um, Adobe, no, just kidding, but just kidding. But you know, don't just sit there and drown. Basically, learn how to make a submarine, learn how to put a floaty on, get through the storm. If you need help getting through your storm, I'm Nate and I'm a life coach and I can help you get through the storm. So sign up for life coaching today. Hit me up in the DMs if you have any questions. Shop at Intercell.com. Pick you up a cool inspirational t-shirt today. Pick up my wife's book, London and the Goo Goo Goo. Like this video, subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already. Like the video, comment down below, let me know what you think about it. I would really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next piece. Peace.